Welcome to The Explainer. So, you ever wonder how an AI really learns anything? Well, it's not some kind of dark magic. Honestly, it's a lot like a student cramming for a big final exam. And today, we're going to give you the ultimate study guide.
So let's jump right in with a question that, kind of keeps AI developers up at night. Is an AI genuinely smart, or is it just a fantastic memorizer? I mean, how can we be sure it's actually thinking for itself and not just, spitting back answers it's already seen? Let's get into it.
All right, so to really get to the bottom of this, we're going to follow our little AI student through its whole learning journey. We'll start with what that big test is all about. Then we'll check out its textbook, see how it handles the final exam, maybe sneak in a few practice quizzes, and then finally, see how it all comes together to build a truly smarter system.
Okay, first up, the AI's big test. Look, the whole point here isn't just about acing problems it's already seen. No way. The real test is proving it can tackle brand new, totally unseen situations. That is the crucial difference between just remembering something and actually knowing it.
So, where does an AI even begin to learn? Well, just like any of us, right? It hits the books. And that textbook is the first big idea we need to talk about. It's the absolute foundation of everything it will ever learn. We call it training data.
So this training data, it's literally the AI's entire library of study guides, textbooks, the whole shebang. The model just churns through this stuff, maybe thousands, sometimes millions of times. And every single time it goes through, it's tweaking its own internal wiring, trying to figure out the hidden patterns, the connections between things. It's kind of like us highlighting a textbook, scribbling notes in the margins, and just rereading a chapter over and over until, finally, it clicks.
And get this. This is where you really get a sense of how much studying we're talking about. The training data, that big textbook, it's not just some of the material. As you can see, it often makes up a whopping 80% of everything the AI ever sees. So, the huge majority of its existence is spent with its head buried in these books.
Okay, and this brings us to a super important point. You've probably heard the phrase, garbage in, garbage out, right? Well, it's never been more true. The quality of that textbook is, and I mean this, everything. If that book is packed with mistakes or biases or just plain wrong information, the AI, well, it's a great student. It'll learn all those flaws perfectly. And that leads to a system that makes bad, maybe even dangerous decisions.
All right, so after all that studying, all that time spent with the textbook, how do we actually know if it paid off? How do we know the AI learned anything at all? This is where it has to prove it wasn't just memorizing. This is the final exam, the moment of truth.
And that final exam is called the testing data. Now, there's one golden, unbreakable rule here. The AI has never, ever seen this data before. It's kept under lock and key the entire time the AI is studying. It's only brought out one time right at the very end to give us an honest, totally unbiased grade on how well it can perform out in the real world.
And this table here just lays it all out, plain and simple. Training data is the textbook, it's for learning. Testing data is the final exam, it's for grading. The model can study that textbook as much as it wants, thousands of times even. But the final exam, it only gets one shot. And keeping those two separate, well, that's completely non-negotiable.
But hold on a second. We all know the best students, right? They don't just read the book and then hope for the best on the final. No, they've got a secret weapon to get ready. And it turns out, so do the smartest AI models.
And that secret weapon is the validation data. The best way to think about this is like a bunch of practice quizzes. The engineers are kind of like the teachers here. They use these little quizzes to check in on the AI's progress. Is it getting this concept or is it struggling over here? And based on those quiz results, they can tweak the AI's study habits to help it improve. It's the perfect way to get feedback and make adjustments without, actually cheating and peeking at the final exam.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Let's see how this whole study plan, the textbook, those crucial practice quizzes, and the final exam all fits together to build AI systems we can actually trust out in the real world. And here it is. The whole playbook, laid out step by step. First, you prepare and split up all your data. Then, the model trains with the textbook. After that, you fine-tune it with the practice quizzes. And only then, only at the very end, do you evaluate it with the final exam. This super strict process, this separation, it isn't just a nice-to-have. It's the key ingredient that forces the AI to go beyond just memorizing and actually start to understand.
And this is why all of this really matters to you and me outside of some computer lab. This whole rigorous study, quiz, test process is what allows us to have any confidence in the AI that's becoming part of our world. Think about it. When a self-driving car has to make a split-second decision on the highway, or an AI is helping a doctor diagnose a disease, we have to know that it truly gets it. This process is how we make sure of that.
So we're going to leave you with one last thing to think about. Once you realize that the data, the textbook, is just as crucial as the complex AI algorithm itself, it really opens up some much bigger, tougher questions, right? Questions about responsibility, about bias. Because if an AI's textbook is what shapes its entire view of the world, well, who do we trust to write it?